Welcome back to yet again another part of our D&D 5th edition review. We're going to be discussing this time player perspective, what it's like to be a player of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and what it's like to be a DM in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So, why don't we start off with running it, since we both have come, and you haven't really gotten too much time to play.
I don't want to talk about it.
I know. So I'm
very upset.
So what is, I mean, you have the unique situation that the first Dungeons & Dragons campaign or game you've ever run is in 5th edition. So you don't
I ran one 3.5 game.
One game, okay, that's true.
Yeah.
How does
first campaign.
What are you, I guess, first impressions?
A lot of the things they did to streamline it make it a lot easier for the DM. With, like, you know, resistances to damage and stuff like that being so much easier. I feel like it's easier for me to keep things, like, at the forefront of my brain. Like, I'm not worried about, oh, well, he has, I know that this guy has something with fire. He has, like, was it a 5 or a 6 that he, I don't know, it's just resistance. Like, he has resistance to fire, he has resistance to that. He's stupid, and he has resistance to spells. Like, it's easier to keep character information in your head because it is easier to keep character information
in your head.
In your head.
Yeah, I think it's definitely easier to run this game, but I think that's a function of the fact that this game, this edition as a whole, is easier in general.
Yeah.
They took a lot of the stuff, I mean, as anyone who's played 3.5 knows, there's like a bajillion options. Like, you could get as crazy as you wanted because there was a way to customize or change just about everything.
Yeah.
And every character creation took forever because you had skill points and you had all these other things to worry about and feats and all this other stuff, and now you don't really have that. So I think when running it, things like having the advantage-disadvantage system rather than a +/- 2 to that, or -5 to that, or +5 to that, I think that's a lot easier. The only thing I think in running this game that's really kind of difficult is managing, if you're not familiar or have a good understanding, is managing spells and spellcasting players.
Yeah.
Because,
I'd agree. I
mean, spellcasting in this game is, you know, it's not as overpowered as it was in 3.5, but it's overpowered.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's not overpowered, it's in power, but spellcasters will eventually outshine your martial classes. To a lesser degree than in previous editions, but they're still going to do it.
I don't know, man. Brian.
That's fair. he does have magic, though.
Yeah, but he doesn't need it.
No, it's true. But that was good. That was rolling stats.
Yeah.
And if you if you don't roll stats and you use point buy or something like that, you're going to have significantly weaker characters.
True.
So if you roll really well, that could put you in a better situation. But yeah, I would say it's easier, but it's mostly a function of the fact that the edition itself is easier. The very first game I ran without a grid because I just played it over Skype with 2 friends. So I kind of just drew stuff out generally on a whiteboard to show them where things were, and it actually worked out pretty well. They got it. So I don't think I could have ever done that in 3.5 because it's just the way the game's set up. You needed to have that strategic, you know, see where everybody is, and it was designed that way. So yeah, I think as a DM running it, I think it's pretty good. I don't know if it's the best it could be, but I think it's better than I had hoped for based on 3.5.
That's true. I like that.
Anything you, as a DM, that you don't like, or that you would change?
Just like the players.
The players.
I don't like the players. I wish they weren't there.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you?
Things that I would change. I wouldn't say, at least in the little bit that I've encountered, there's not too much that I would change. I personally, just as a player from 3.5, I'd like more magic items, and more availability to magic items, just because I'm so used to it. It's hard for me to break that habit of wanting to just give out magic items all the time, which really isn't really a bad thing, because there are a lot you can give out that don't really break the game, but I just don't like that you can't just go out and buy them. It's like, I mean, you find the right town, you can go buy, you know, immovable rods and use them to lock doors, you know, in the old editions. So yeah, I don't really know if there's much I would change. Like I said, I guess I really don't have enough experience with it to...
I'm also going to say I really like the attunement system for magic items. Okay. Because even if you do go crazy as a DM, even if I feel like giving you everything, can't use it.
Yeah, you can only use 3 at a time, yeah.
And keeps it in check, makes it easier to create encounters and keep you guys, you know, at an appropriate level.
I guess I kind of, I do like the hard cap at 20.
For stats?
For stats, and the fact that at running it anyway, the fact that ability scores and feats are tied to classes rather than just your character.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's less things for you to have to know about your players.
Yeah.
You know that without extreme exceptions, you're gonna be like they're only gonna be this powerful.
Mm-hmm.
The most they're ever gonna have to roll to hit is an 11.
Yeah.
You know, minus any magic items. So I kind of like that. I like that that's streamlined. It makes things easier to manage. Alright, so I know you don't have a ton of experience with this. But,
I did walk down a hallway as a player.
I know. So let's talk player perspective. I mean, I know you have limited experience, but you have ran a game and seen how things are played. What are your thoughts on, stuff as a player in 5th edition?
Looks good.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the same... the highlights are the same that we've talked about in the other things. Like advantage and disadvantage, the magic items being more rare, so your character kind of matters more.
True.
I kind of like that. What you do with it matters more. And also, it's easier with more options.
Yeah.
Which is kind of...
Yeah.
It's kind of a hard thing to do, is to make something easier and give you more options. In one location. We did walk down that hallway.
True.
I played at a shop and I walked down a hallway and went down a hall. It took 3 hours. And that was fun.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I like that. So I've created like 5 characters. I've never played any of them. But I do really like that you just need proficiency with Thieves' Tools to be able to pick locks. You don't have to be a rogue.
Right.
My character was a wood elf monk with a really high dexterity who had grown up as an urchin and could lockpick. So that's a cool game mechanic. Really like damagey cantrips. I did not like playing as a sorcerer in 3.5 because at a certain point I'm trying to hit something with a sling and doing a d4 while everyone else is way better. I like that, you have the cool damagey cantrips that scale.
Yeah, as a player I can say I like it a lot. It's definitely more streamlined. I'd say it's definitely easier to get other people to play.
That's a good point.
Because it's a simpler system. So it's easier to get your friends to play, and the fact that it is bounded accuracy and it's ability X plus proficiency plus roll equals whatever you're trying to do makes it a lot easier. So even if you don't have stuff written down, you can pretty easily recreate it or help other people recreate it if they get lost. So that's fun. As a player, though, the feats are great, and there's a lot of great options, but I don't like, as a player, I don't like that they're walled behind ability score improvements and tied to stats, because as a player, obviously, I want more things, because I want my character to be better.
Yeah.
But I can't really justify playing anything but a half-elf as a charisma-based casting class. Because the fact that you get a +2 to charisma and a +1 to 2 other stats of your choosing really puts half-elf at pretty much the solo option for any class that's going to use charisma for casting, which in this game is most classes.
Yeah.
So that's bard, that's paladin, that's sorcerer, and that's warlock.
Which I thought was interesting that that more classes base their spellcasting on charisma than anything else. If you think about it, only 3 for intelligence, which is the Eldritch Knight, Arcane Trickster, and Wizard, and only 3 for wisdom, Cleric, Ranger, and Druid.
Yeah.
More things use charisma than anything else.
Yeah, and I feel like part of that was because we had a lot of classes in previous editions that got like way too multiple attribute dependent.
Yeah.
Like a paladin's paladin abilities were based off of charisma, but their spellcasting was based off of wisdom, but you wanted a high strength and a high constitution so you could fight up close.
And you wanted dex so you can have a higher AC.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because that mattered with heavy armor to some extent. So yeah, those were all things.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would like to play a human because that could give me the option for a feat at first level, which could really change the way you play your character. But, you know, and there's also not going to be as many people dipping, like, well, I guess people still would dip potentially 2 levels in Fighter, but not dipping it to get the feats. Now they're doing it to get Action Surge.
Yeah.
But I feel like multi-classing, obviously, in this game is much less stressed. You don't need it to get as many crazy options.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I don't know, that the fact that it's tied to every 4 levels, basically, really gets you that division between the 17-3 and the 16-4 split. Because a lot of really good end game abilities for a class comes online at 17.
Yeah.
Like your 9th level spells or your really good class feature comes on at 17. But if you do 16-4, that's 2 stat boosts that you wouldn't, or feats that you wouldn't normally get. So that's something to think about. And, you know, I mean, you're going to multi-class. Is it really worth losing the feat to go to, you know, I mean, I'm not too worried about the 19th level one, but are you really worried about not getting maybe 16 if you decide to multi-class out at, like, level 13 or something like that? Is it worth it? And, you know, I don't know. It's as a player, it's just a conundrum that I personally am dealing with at this point, having just hit level 12. I'm on the, do I multi-class out? Which way do I go? How long do I go? And, I mean, yeah, for your average person, this may not be a thing, but as someone that plays a lot of D&D, this is a big deal for me to come up with this stuff.
It's causing anxiety.
It is, almost, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say the biggest, I'm not going to say complaint as a player, but, like, one of the things that I feel kind of suck is how much of a difference dark vision makes.
It is really dependent, though.
Yeah, but most campaigns you're going to go into caves. You're going to go into dungeons. There are going to be situations where it's dark. And I feel like in other editions, when Human was so good, it never came up because most people picked Human. Because Human's really good, so most people didn't have dark vision, so it wasn't a thing. Now, like you were saying, Half-Elf, great class if you're
one of 4
based.
Classes.
Yeah.
4 of 8 or 4 of 12 classes.
Yeah, if you're one of them, you should totally go Half-Elf. And, you know, if you're going to be a melee class. Orc, great choice. If you're going to be a wizard, Gnome, great choice. If you want to be something weird, Tiefling, great choice. I feel like a lot of the really cool choices do grant you dark vision. So it kind of makes the classes that don't, I'm not going to say useless, but I feel like there are more classes that give you dark vision than don't.
Yeah, there are definitely,
And so it puts you at a disadvantage. Like, I really wanted to play as a Halfling.
Yeah,
and Halfling doesn't get dark vision. And I mean, they have some really cool stuff that...
roll a 1.
Yeah. You never roll a 1. You always get to re-roll. So yeah, you get... I don't know. I feel like that alone makes Human and Halfling and Dragonborn kind of crappy comparatively.
Yeah, I guess part of that is, elves and half-elves only had low light vision in old editions. Now they have dark vision, so that's added to that list. The other side of it, too, was as a player thinking about old editions, Humans didn't get any bonuses to stats, they just got a feat. But other classes, you might get a bonus to a stat, but you also got a negative to another stat, and now you don't have that anymore. So the fact that you have no negatives to stats puts every class back on the table, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that is what allows you to kind of want to be like, well, maybe I'll choose this one. It's also like, there is pretty much for every class, there is a race that will give you 2 to your primary stat and 1 to a secondary stat that you need, more or less.
Yeah.
And Human only gives you 1 to 2 stats. So you're losing the point, and you can technically make up for that with a feat that gives you, a +1 to a given stat. But most of those, depending on what you're looking for, aren't going to be that great.
Yeah.
So there's not a ton that I think only actor gives you a +1 to charisma.
Yeah.
And that's a completely role-play based thing, and if you don't run into that a lot, or you don't have a lot of that, or your rest of your party members don't care to role-play, then that's a useless feat for you, just to get a +1 to your charisma. Or to, go resilient and get proficiency in charisma saves. So yeah, as a player, I would just like more feats. Give me more options to do more things.
I could hear that.
I do like the fact that they did what they did, making feats matter more. Like they will be. They're a lot, like there's not going to be like you get proficient, you get a +3 to 2 skills.
Yeah.
There's a lot more useful stuff. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all that I'd have to say from a player's perspective. I'm happy with it. I don't know if I'd change too much. There are some wonky rulings and things that, the internet, like hiding, for instance.
No one knows how to do it.
And I don't know if there will be something like a 5.5 or a 6th edition not too far around the corner. I don't know how that's going to work. But, we'll talk a little bit more about what news and things have been coming out when we get to the supplemental information part coming up. But next up, we're just going to, we've kind of touched on it a lot, so this next one may be fairly short. We're going to just talk about changes from 3.5 to 5.
Cool.
So we'll see you in a bit.